to establish interchangeability of manufactured parts and products. So you have to see that there are manufactured parts and products are interchangeable. So why this incentive schemes? So if the worker does the job within the standard period, then he should be amply rewarded. So those workers who reach the standards set by the management, they are considered as efficient. Hello everyone, welcome to you all to this third session in the second chapter, Principles of Management. I am Purnima K, faculty in the Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence. Now, in this session, we will be discussing about the techniques of scientific management. Now, looking into the techniques of scientific management, we all know that scientific management was propounded by F.W. Taylor or Frederick Winslow Taylor. So, in this techniques of scientific management, the first technique refers to functional foremanship. Now, Taylor said he wanted to improve the quality of work in the shop floor of the organization. Now, who was the main person who was responsible for the work in the shop floor? It is the foreman. Now, Taylor wanted to improve the quality of the work of the foreman. So, what did he do? So, he introduced this concept of functional foremanship. Now, he identified certain qualities which were important for a foreman. Now, he later on realized that he could not see all those qualities in one single person. So, he advocated the system of functional foremanship. So, as I told you earlier, so this is the picture of F.W. Taylor, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor. So, this person, he is responsible for introduction of the techniques of scientific management. So, he concentrated on improving the performance of this role. So, this role means the foreman's role. So, foreman's role in the organization. So, he advocated separation of planning and execution functions. Now, in the shop floor also, we need to have proper planning of the functions and later on the execution. Now, he said that we should separate the planning function, which should be given to persons who are intellectuals and who have the technical knowledge, and he also propounded that we should give the execution functions to all those persons who are energetic and who are full of strength. Now, under planning in charge, he said we need 4 personnel. So, under planning in charge, he said we need 4 personnel, that is the instruction card clerk, route clerk, time and cost clerk, and the disciplinarian. So, these 4 persons will be in charge of planning on the shop floor. Now, next, he also said under the production in charge, there will be again 4 persons. Now, who are the 4 persons? There we have the speed boss, gang boss, repair box, and the inspector. Now, so we will just look into what are the various activities of these 4 people. Then, functional foremanship is an extension of the principle of division of work and specialization. So, we all know that through the division of work only, the person can become efficient. Now, if you can just correlate it with the technique of scientific management, we can see that it is an extension of the principle of division of work at the shop floor. Now, if you can see this diagram here, the functional foremanship, where the factory manager is there, under him we have the planning in charge and the production in charge. Now, this planning in charge, under him there are 4 persons. Now, what is the work of these 4 persons? We will discuss. Now, the instruction card clerk. So, instruction cards clerk's work is to give instruction to each of the workers. Now, whenever they enter the shop floor, so he will be giving the instruction card where the employee will be knowing what is the exact work he has to do for that day. Then the route clerk. So, the route clerk will decide the flow of men and materials. So, materials, how it will go and how the work should be done. So, he will design the route for the work to be done. Time and cost clerk. So time and cost clerk means, so he will be in charge of the time set for each job and the cost involved. So what is the time involved for each job and what is the amount of resources needed? So all that will be decided by the time and cost clerk. And fourthly, the disciplinarian. So the disciplinarian is the person who is overall in charge of all these activities. So he sees that he oversees all the work of all the other three persons. Now, in this production in charge, so we have the speed boss. So the speed boss is responsible for the speed of the machine. So how fast the production unit should be done, how fast the machinery should run. So on all these things, so he will be the main decision maker. So the speed boss, he takes care of the speed of the work to be done in the shop floor. Then we have the gang boss, who will be responsible for all the machinery and the tools. So whatever tools are necessary for the workers to be done in the shop floor, so he will take care that all the tools are in their places and he will ensure that the workers are in their respective places. Then we have the repair boss. So the repair boss means, so he is responsible for the repairs of the machinery. So after each work of the after the machinery has done its job, he is responsible to see that the machinery is in a good running condition. Then lastly, we have this inspector. So this inspector, he will be in charge of the quality of work which is done by the workers. So in this way, F.W. Taylor, he has just bifurcated the job in the shop floor into planning and production, and so each worker will be receiving instructions from all these persons. So each employee will be receiving instructions from all these different heads of people. So this is what we mean by functional foremanship. So in this functional foremanship, we have just identified that there is a separation of planning and doing, and under planning in charge we have 4 persons who are involved in planning, and under the production we have 4 persons who are in charge of the production. Next, so the next technique of scientific management relates to standardization and simplification of work. Now, standardization, what is the meaning of the word standardization? Standardization refers to the process of setting standards for every business activity. So, whether it can be, it is a process of setting standards for every business activity. Now, what are the various business activities? So, in a business activity, we may have purchase of raw material, then the time involved to do the production or convert it into a finished product, the actual product, the machinery, the methods or the working conditions. So all these things are involved in a business activity. Now, F.W. Taylor, he said that we need to have standard for each and every job. So whether it is the selection of raw materials, so whether you are purchasing raw materials, see that you purchase good quality standard raw materials for the company. Then also the time. So how do you do the time? What is the time involved to convert it into a manufactured product? So how do you see how do you fix the standards for the time? So you have to do it through the time and motion study. So we can find out the best way or the standard time you can fix for each job. Then next is the product. How do you analyze the quality of your product? So what are the various methods of improving? What are the defects in the product? So identify and remove process defects. So you should see that you have a product which has no defects. So that is, you will be able to give standardized products to the people. Then the machinery. So whatever machinery you are using in your production line, you see that the machinery is of a very high standard or quality, and also the methods. So what are the different methods of doing the work? So you see that you set a standard for each and every activity in the shop floor, and also the the working conditions. So a good working condition is necessary for any employee who is working in the shop floor, and so we have to see that he is provided with good environment in the shop floor. Then, so that refers to standardization. Next is, so why we should have standardization? So if you can see this picture here, standardization and simplification, they are complete a circle. So they are repeatable, high quality outcomes. So reduce complexity at manageable level. So you should see that the products which you are providing to the customers, they should be of the same quality, same size and the same specifications. Now, why do we need standardization? So standardization is necessary to reduce a given line or a product to fixed types. So if you are producing, if it is a soap manufacturing company, so you see that the soaps of the particular weight, particular perfume or particular company, they will be of the same standard, same size, and everything quality is maintained. So you have the same fixed type, sizes and features. Then to establish interchangeability of manufactured parts and products. So you have to see that there are manufactured parts and products are interchangeable. Then to establish standards of excellence and quality in material. So you see that you fix the standard and then you see that all the materials which are produced in the organization reach that standard. And lastly, to establish standards of performance for men and machines. So whatever the performance you have fixed for the men and the machines, so you have to achieve those standards. So this is the main aim of having standardization. So once you fix the standards, you should see that all the persons who are working in that shop floor, they will reach the standards. Then next we have the method study. Now what is this method study? So in this method study, we will be seeing what is the best way to do the job. So in the method study, the first process is the selection of work. Now what is the work to be done? That we will be selecting. Secondly, recording the information. So once you select the job, once you select the work, then you just make a record of the work to be done. Next is examine the information. So you just see how the work is being done presently and then you just think of ways. So examination of the information, then develop a new process. Then you just examine and see what are the various ways you can improve the methods. Then through that you can develop a new process. Then install the new method. Next process is you install. Once you develop a new process, then you install the new method and lastly you maintain the new method. So what is the new method of doing the job? So that method should be followed throughout the organization. So in this method study, we just find out the one best way of doing the job. So how do you find out? So it is through this process. Then right from the procurement of raw materials to the final product, every product. So procurement of raw materials means, so you will be purchasing raw materials for the production unit, and until the final product, so whatever the product is come out of your production unit, so it will be delivered to the customer. So every part is a part of method study. So right up to the product reaches the hands of the consumer, so everything is a part of the method study. So there is constant monitoring of every activity right from purchase of raw material till the product reaches the hands of the consumer. So all the activities are under constant monitoring to improve the method of study. Then why should we have this method study? We should have this method study to minimize the cost of production. So why we should have this? The main aim is to minimize the cost of production and maximize quality and satisfaction of the customer. So the main aim of all the business organization, we all know that marketing is done mainly to satisfy the human wants and needs. Then the customer satisfaction is of utmost importance in marketing. So here we look into the The whole exercise of method study is to improve the quality of the product and finally the ensuring the satisfaction of the customer. Then we use, now how do we do this method study? It is through the use of process charts. So through the process charts and operations research. So operation research means it is also one process of having the method study. So through these two things, that is the technique of process charts and the operation chart, we can see that we have developed a very good method study, and nowadays it is becoming very, very important. Almost all the organizations involve in operation research for all their operations. Next is the motion study. Now, F.W. Taylor, he said that we need to have motion study. Now, what is this motion study? So, it refers to the movements. So, if it is in a shop floor, if the employer is working or the laborer is working, then there will be a study of the movements of that person. The study of the movements like lifting the materials. It may be he will be lifting the raw materials, or he will be feeding the raw materials into the machinery, or he will be sitting and changing positions, which will be undertaken while doing a typical job. So, what are the various, he observed the various movements of the laborer when he was working on the machinery. So, that observation of all the motions of the body, we call it as the motion study. So, on close examination of the body motion, it was possible to find out. So, what are the basic movements? If you can see in this drawing here, we can see the basic movements. So, either he'll be putting the hands in the pocket, or it will be in sideways, or see, you can see how the various people are standing there. So, we have the basic movements and eliminate unnecessary movements. So, what are the basic movements of the body? And he said that we should eliminate the unnecessary movements to have the best outcome of any worker. Now, what are the conclusions he got from the motion study? So, when we can just see his observations, he said that motions which are productive, there are some movements of the body which are productive, then some movements of the body which are incidental. So, they may be based on the situation. Situation feels that worker to go to the storeroom, then he has to go to the store. So, there is a movement from the shop floor to the store, and then motions which are unproductive. So, there are certain movements of the body which are unproductive. So, these are all the observations given by F.W. Taylor, and he was through this motion studies, he was able to design suitable equipment and tools to educate workers on their use. So, he was just observing the workers over a long period of time, and based on his observations, he was able to design suitable equipment. So, he just designed certain equipments which were useful to the workers in their daily lives. And he also saw that the workers were knowing how to use the equipment. Now, the next in the technique of scientific management is the time study. So, this is very, very important. In this time study, we will be looking into the shortest period of time taken to do the job. Now, it determines the standard time taken to perform a well-defined job. So, F.W. Taylor said that we should fix the time for each job in the organization. So, you allot certain time and the worker has to do the job within that allotted time. Now, the time measuring devices are used for each element of task. If you can see the picture here, there is a picture of the factory which is working, and then we have the stopwatch here. So, these time measuring devices are used for each element of the task. Whatever the task is given, so you allot a standard time for each task. Then the objective of time study is to determine the number of workers to be employed and frame suitable incentive schemes and determine labor cost. Now, why should we have the time study? So, Taylor said that we should have the time study to determine the number of workers to be employed. So, how many workers are necessary in an organization? So, to decide that, you need to have this time study. Then next one is you frame suitable incentive schemes. So why this incentive schemes? So if the worker does the job within the standard period, then he should be amply rewarded. And then we also have to do this time study to determine the labor cost. So what is the labor cost? So for that also we need to have this time study. So, time study is an essential part of scientific management. Now, after that, next is the fatigue study. Now, what is this fatigue study? Fatigue study refers to the physical exhaustion of the person who is working. So, if he is working in a machinery, so there will be a sound from the machinery or the heat coming from the machinery. So, all these things will cause physical exhaustion of the worker. So, that physical exhaustion which he experiences, that we call it as fatigue. Now, we have this drawing here. This is fatigue, pain and sensitivity. So, fatigue means the tiredness the worker will be because of the work he will be doing. Then because of that his body parts will be paining and he will be sensitive. Then so in this fatigue, what will he experience? The brain fog. So once he will be tired, so he will be having brain fog. That is, his thinking capacity will come down. Then he will also face dizziness. That means he cannot stand straight, and then he will suffer headaches also. So these are all the after effects of having fatigue or body exhaustion. Now, he is bound to feel physically and mentally tired if he does not rest while working. Now, this Taylor, when he was observing the motions of the workers, he also saw that people were taking too much of time to rest. Now, again, he had a study on fatigue. So, when the person should take the rest and how the rest should be effective. So, all these things have been discussing in this fatigue study. So, when the person is tired physically and mentally, and he has to take some rest. Now, how will this rest improve? The rest intervals will help one to regain stamina and work again with the same capacity. So, he said that when the worker is in a state of tiredness, he should not be allowed to work. So, if you can give him rest for at least 5 to 10 minutes, then he will regain his stamina and he will be able to work more efficiently. Then, this fatigue study seeks to determine the amount of frequency of rest intervals and completing a task. So, in this fatigue study, he also said that where we should give the rest to the employees and what is the time involved for each interval has been decided in this fatigue study. So, rest intervals, the amount and frequency of rest intervals in completing a task. For each task, he recommended that we should give rest intervals working very, very efficiently and effectively. Next, the most important thing is the differential piece wage system. Now, what is this differential piece wage system? So, if you can see here the wage payment. So, wage payment you are paying to the laborers in the organization. So, why we call it as differential? So, differential piece. So, differential means you differentiate the workers based on their output. So, if the output is good, so you pay a different scale. If the output is not good, then you fix a scale for the inefficient workers. Then, piece wage system. So, based on the number of units the employee has worked, so based on that, you fix the wage. So, he was a strong proponent of this differential piece wage system. Now, he said that he wanted to differentiate between efficient and inefficient workers. So, in this, he wanted to differentiate between efficient and inefficient workers. Now, who are efficient, they should be paid more, and who are not efficient, they should be paid less. The standard time and other parameters should be determined on the basis of work study. Now, Taylor, as you all know, as we have already discussed, there was time study, method study, motion study, and fatigue study. And after studying all these, the last thing is Taylor said that we should fix a differential wage piece rate system. Now, after all this, we fix the standard time for each job, and then we have the other parameters like the different methods we are using for the job and the motion studies. So, when you have given everything to the worker, then he has to give the standard output only. So, if he is not able to give the standard output, then you fix a different wage scale depending on his output. Now, this differential piece wage system, the workers can be classified as efficient or inefficient. So, those workers who reach the standards set by the management, they are considered as efficient, and those who don't reach the standards, they are considered as inefficient. Then he introduced different rate of wage payment for each of the workers. So he said that rather than quarreling over the share in the resultant surplus, so workers should not quarrel over the resultant surplus, and the managers and workers should work in harmony for maximizing the output rather than restricting it. Now, he introduced different wage payment for the efficient and inefficient workers. Now, why he said that? See, if the person is very efficient, you can pay more because he is an asset to the company. So, if he is not working efficiently, you pay him less, and when you pay these efficient workers more, you will be indirectly motivating the inefficient workers also to work efficiently. So, and also through this method, we can also ensure that the management is paying the worker sufficiently. So, there will be no quarrel. So, workers will be telling, so we have worked for the company, so we need to get bonus and all those things. Now, when the efficient workers are amply rewarded, so there will be harmony in the workplace, or we can work in harmony. So, whatever the gains the management is getting through the work done by the employers or the laborers, so it will be helping both to prosper. So, management will prosper because of the efficient work done in the organization, and the worker also will be suitably rewarded because of his efficiency. So, we should see that the management and workers will work in harmony so that they will maximize the output rather than restricting it. So, with this we come to the important discussion on techniques of scientific management, which was propounded by one of the greatest management thinkers, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor. Now, in this session, again, now in continuing this session, we have this HENRI FAYOL'S principle of management. So, if F.W. Taylor, he just observed the shop floor, HENRI FAYOL, he was the management thinker who observed the administration part of the organization. So, both are important, whether it is administration or the production unit, both are important for an organization, and both are the greatest management thinkers, and even today their principles which they have contributed towards the society are in existence even today, and they are followed, and it is a management is a subject which is still evolving day by day. Okay, so here we will discuss about HENRI FAYOL'S principles of management. Now, let us have a brief introduction of who is HENRI FAYOL. So, HENRI FAYOL, his thinking was related to what amounts to a manager's work and what principles should be followed in doing this work. So, he just gave us the principles related to the management of the workers and what are the principles should be followed in an organization. Now, his contribution must be interpreted in terms of the impact his writings had and continue to have improvement in managerial efficiencies. Now, as I told you earlier, whatever the principles principles he has laid down almost 200 years back, they are relevant even today because they relate to human behavior in an organization. Now, we'll have a brief introduction of who is Henri Fayol. So, Henri Fayol was a French management theorist whose theories concerning scientific organization of labor were widely influential in the beginning of the 20th century. Now, why it is widely influential? We can all remember that the Industrial Revolution started in the 20th century, and during this Industrial Revolution itself, we could witness the mass production and also the appointment of labor in the organization. And in the initial years of Industrial Revolution, we could see that the labor was highly exploited. And so to do something about this, we have this Henri Fayol, who was a management thinker who gave us the principles of how best an organizational unit can be managed. Now, he was the first to identify the 4 functions of management. Now, it is easy for all of us. Whenever we ask what is management, we say that management is the art of getting things done through others. Now, the 4 functions of management, we can easily say that planning, organizing, directing and controlling. So, this is the our understanding of the modern management. But then, Henri Fayol, his version was a bit different. So, he just said plan. So, if you have to start an organization, first you plan for the organization, then organize. Now, as per your plans, you organize. So, men, machine, money and materials. So, everything you have to collect, then command. So, you have to command. Whom will you command? You will be commanding the staff whom you have appointed in the organization. Coordinate. Then see that there is coordination among the staff and control. So, lastly, you have to control the employees of the organization. So, Henri Fayol's principles of management. So, in continuation of this, we can say that all activities of the industrial undertaking can be divided into technical. So, technical means it relates to the machinery part, or if it is accounting department, it will relate to accountancy. So, for each department, there should be a technical team. Then the commercial aspect. So, commercial aspect relates to the buying and selling of goods. So, it may be purchase of raw materials, purchase of the stationery for the organization. So, purchase of all things which are necessary for the organization. Then financial. So, finance is the most important aspect of any organization, or we can also say that finance is the lifeblood of any organization. So, without finance, no business can run. So, finance is needed for the day-to-day activities of the business. Then, security. Security relates to the job security, or it may be the security of the industry itself. Then accounting, that is the keeping a track of all the money which the organization is spending. And lastly, the managerial. So, managerial refers to how you manage all these things. So, he has just divided all the activities on these lines. Next, he said that a manager must possess he should have physical stamina to do the job. Then he should be morally very good. He should have proper education to do his job and knowledge of what he is doing, and most important, the experience. So, if he is an experienced person, he will be able in a better position to manage any situation which will be arising in the organization. So, Henri Fayol's principles of management. So, next we'll also look into what are his contributions. So, for his contribution, he is called as the father of general management. Now, if I ask you who is the father of scientific management, you should be able to answer it is F.W. Taylor. So, he was the first one who said that there is a scientific way of doing things. Now, who is the father of general management? It is Henri Fayol. So, Henri Fayol is called as the father of general management. Now, he has laid down 14 principles of management which were discussed in his book General and Industrial Management in 1949. So, his 14 principles of management he has discussed in his book General and Industrial Management. Okay, then now let us look into what are the 14 principles of management which Henry Fayol has given us. The first principle of management refers to division of labor. Now if you can see the picture here, each worker has a specific task. Now this person is bringing the raw material, this person is designing, this person is doing carpentry, he is responsible for the finance, he is responsible for the repairs, and he is responsible for the machinery work. So division of labor. So he said that division of labor is the first and the foremost important principle of management. Now what should we do in this division of work? So work is divided into small tasks or jobs. So whenever you have a work in an organization, you see that it is divided into small jobs, and a trained specialist who is competent is required to perform each job. So a trained specialist who is competent, so he should be competent enough, he should have the necessary skills and knowledge to do the job. So he should be allowed to do the job. Then why we should have this division of work? So this division of work is necessary for better work for the same effort. So the same effort you are doing, but you will be getting very good job done by these specialists. Then he also said that specialization is the most efficient way to use human effort. So when you do the same job again and again, so you become more and more efficient. So that is the principle laid down by Henry Fayol. So specialization is the most efficient way to use human effort. So he applies these principles of division of work to all kinds of work, whether it is technical work or managerial. So he says that whether it is a technical job or a managerial job, we need to have division of work. Now in this present, if you can just correlate it to the present context, so we have a perfect division of work. We have seen companies which are outsourcing so many jobs which are not the core activity of the company. It may be advertising or it may be share transfer management. So things like this are being outsourced to other companies. Next important principle propounded by Henry Fayol is authority and responsibility. If you can see here, he is the person in authority. So he is authorized, or he is the authority, and all these are the subordinates. So they are the subordinates and they take orders from this person. So he gives orders. And whose responsibility means who has done the job. So whenever we look into the responsibility aspect, we see people pointing fingers. So who has done this job? Then we can see this. So this is the responsibility aspect which is being shown here. So authority and responsibility. According to Fayol, authority is the right to give orders and obtain obedience. Now what do you mean by authority? Authority is nothing but you are giving orders and instructions to your subordinates, and obtain obedience. So once he gives the orders, it is the duty of the subordinates to follow the orders. That is, he has to get obedience from the subordinates, and the responsibility is the corollary of authority. So responsibility is his only. So the person who is giving the orders, he will be responsible for the work. He has to get it done from his subordinates. Then authority is both formal and informal. So authority, that is a person who is in authority, or the superior, whoever we call, who is in the superior position. So he will be having both formal and informal authority. So what is formal authority? Formal authority is he will be giving orders on the basis of his position. So if he is a general manager, so he will be giving his instructions. Then informal means, so informally also he can give instructions to his subordinates. So they require authority commensurate with their responsibility. So if you don't have authority, but if you are only responsible for the jobs, then it becomes something which is irrelevant. If you don't have the authority to give orders, then how can you be responsible for the work which has to be done? So authority and responsibility should always go hand in hand. So we need proper authority to get the job done through the subordinates, and there should be balance between authority and responsibility. So if there is no balance between authority and responsibility, there cannot be no jobs which are done in the organization. So authority and responsibility, they are both essential for running the organization. Then in continuation of this authority and responsibility, so he should have the right to punish a subordinate also. So if the subordinate is not doing the job well, then the manager should have every authority to punish the subordinate for not obeying a legitimate order, but only after sufficient opportunity has been given for presenting his or her case. Now, when can he punish him? Only when he has given the subordinate an opportunity to speak, or he should be given an opportunity to defend himself. Only then the superior can just punish the subordinate. Then next one is discipline. As you know, discipline, what is the meaning? If you can see the picture here, this person is commanding everyone. So this is nothing but discipline. Now what is discipline? Discipline is obedience to the organizational rules. So whatever is the rules of the organization, it may be following the timings of the organization, coming on time and going on time, and if there is a dress code you have to follow, and all the various other rules and regulations which are in the organization has to be followed by every employee of the organization. Only then we can have proper order in the organization. So it is obedience to the organizational rules and employment agreement which are necessary for the working of the organization. So the organization will form rules and regulations for the employees, so which have to be followed by the employees strictly. So according to FAYOL, discipline requires good superiors at all levels. Now there should be superiors who follow the rules of employment strictly. Only then the subordinates also will follow. Otherwise there will be utter chaos in the organization. Clear and fair agreements. So employment agreements also should be fair and clear, and judicious application of penalties. So whenever there is an employee who has been frequently violating the discipline of the organization, he should be punished. How can you punish them? By imposing penalties like this. So you can see that the employees of the organization behave in a disciplined manner. Then the fourth principle given by HENRI FAYOL is unity of command. So unity of command, if you can see the picture here, this person is conducting the race. So 1, 2, 3, as soon as he starts, these persons will start running. The same way in this unity of command, FAYOL said that there should be one and only one boss for the principle of unity of command. So the workers should follow the orders of only one boss. Then so why he says that each participant in a formal organization should receive orders and be responsible to only one superior. So one superior should be there to give the orders, and there can be 8 to 10 subordinates who will be reporting to the superior. So now what will happen if there are 2 or more superiors? If there are 2 or more superiors, then it will create chaos and confusion. So the workers will not not know whom to listen. So whose orders they should follow or whose orders they should not follow. So dual subordination should be avoided. We should try to avoid dual subordination. So why we should avoid dual subordination? To prevent confusion. So the workers will be confused whether they have to listen to boss 1 or boss 2. So it will create confusion. So Henry Fayol tells us that unity of command is of utmost importance in an organization. Then next comes the unity of direction. So unity of direction means there is one person who is the director. So he is supervising the activities of all the workers. So these are all the workers of the organization. So he is directing and they have to follow the directions. So in each department, the departmental head will be directing the activities of that department, and all the employees of that department will be working as per his directions. So in this unity of direction, we see that all the units should be moving towards the same objectives, coordinated and focused efforts. So all the units of the organization will be focusing on achievement of the organizational goals, and each unit will have its own direction. Then each group of activities having same objectives must have one head and one plan. So I told you earlier, so all the activities of the organization is divided into different departments, and each department should have one head, one plan, one objective. So only when you have this unity of direction, it ensures unity of action and coordination. Only through unity of direction we can have unity of action. So and coordination. So with this, we have come to the end of the third session. The rest of the principles of management I will be discussing in my next session. Thank you, everyone.